Hello there, YouTube. I give you greetings from TERF Island, because apparently that's where I am right now. I hail from TERF Island. I can't believe I'm saying it, but apparently the feminists have suddenly decided to come out of the woodwork and start spouting sense for a change. So I'm going to explain, and I'm going to go over a few things, because there have been a few things in the last week that have popped up, and I think they're interesting because they're all kind of interconnected. And it's very different because here in the UK, this argument goes very, very differently than it does in woke as hell America. Because in the UK, we have a very, very big contingent of the populace that are sick to death of the trans lobby. And this was very, very clear with the Standing for Women rally, which took place in Scotland about a week ago. It was less than a week ago, about 5-6 days ago now. Scotland has had quite a controversy at the moment because they are trying to pass a lot of legislation on trans issues. And one of the big things they're trying to do is make it so that you can just claim to be whatever gender you like, and that becomes your legal gender. And the British government, the Westminster government, have basically told the Scottish government, not a chance, you don't get to make that decision, after they tried to house men in women's prisons. And I don't mean trans women, I mean men. Men who just went and went, yeah, I'm a woman. I don't mean men who have had any kind of surgery. I don't mean men who are living as women. I don't mean men who are in any way gender dysphoric. I mean just men. I don't even mean men with a wig on. I mean just men. Men who just decided to say they were women that day. Like some of the people who were making these claims were ridiculous. Like some of the photos, it's so very clearly a man who has been living as a man. No effort whatsoever has been made to feminize himself in any way. So they're not women. They're not even trying to be women. They are just abusing a system because male prisons are dangerous places. Male prisons are filled with male prisoners who are, rapists and murderers and, career criminals who are likely to beat the living shit out of you. Whereas female prisons are filled with women who are also, murderers and thieves and less likely, but the occasional rapist. But the thing is, they're women, and biological truth is this: men are stronger than women, almost universally. 9 out of 10 men are stronger than 9 out of 10 women. And it's very difficult for you to find a woman who is stronger than a man. Any woman stronger than any man, unless you purposely find a 17-year-old scrawny little geek boy and a professional athlete woman. That's the closest you're going to get before you actually get this. And even then, it's not likely. We're talking about a situation here where national level women's football teams play against under 15s boys teams, and the boys still win because they're faster, they're stronger, they have more stamina. Men are just stronger. We are physically bigger in all ways. We have more lung capacity, we have stronger hearts, we have tighter, stronger muscles. You put a male prisoner in a women's prison, what you end up with is a lot of raped prisoners. That's what happens. So, this controversy was a problem. And Scotland has had protests with the Standing for Women protest trying to make sure that women's prisons remain for women. It's not just women's prisons, it's also women's gyms, women's saunas, women's spas, things like that, where women are in a vulnerable place, where there's changing rooms, and places where there's not going to be cameras, there's not going to be guards, places where a woman can be taken advantage of. And it's reasonable that they want those spaces to be kept, somewhat sacrosanct. And these protests are, pretty huge. They are clearly the popular side of the argument here in the UK. Whereas the trans side is filled with Antifa terrorists. You know, the kind of people who had BLM riots for no reason, has tried burning things down in the south of England for no good reason. And for some reason, furries and fursuits. Now, I'll point out, I used to engage with the fur fandom years and years ago because I like cartoons and I like video games, like particularly like mascot platformers that have a lot of like animal mascots. So I liked the artwork that went with them, like things like Sonic the Hedgehog. Like I would have a lot of enjoyment drawing that kind of artwork, so I ended up kind of falling into the fur fandom. And then I found out the fur fandom is a crazy extreme leftist grouping of, let's face it, communists and paedophiles. And I ran as quickly as my knackered legs could carry me. So that's what the fur fandom's like. And if you don't like that, tough titty, that's the reality of the situation. Any furs in the comments section, either you're the exception or you're blind to the reality of what the fur fandom's really like. Seriously, I know I was there. Anyway. So, that's what it's been like here. Now, in the UK, the TERFs, and I say the TERFs because that's what they always get labelled, the trans-exclusionary radical feminists. They're not, they're just women who are sick of women's achievements and women's spaces and the definition of woman being erased, standing up for their rights and their position as women. They're not trans-exclusionary radical feminists, they're just normal people. Most of them don't even consider themselves to be radical feminists. Half of them don't even identify as feminists. But that's not the point. These people are winning. The trans argument has no legs in Britain. It's why we're called TERF Island. And it's why JK Rowling has such a popular position here, because her position is one of a sensible position. She worries that the trans position is actively grooming children, which it is, and that it's using children as a springboard for political movement by trying to convince children to have gender reassignment surgery, to have effectively genital manipulation way too young, to have hormone therapy way too young. These are things that you can't just reverse. You wouldn't allow anyone else to do this. There's a really great clip of a courtroom, I believe it's an American courtroom, where someone is arguing backwards and forwards, and they start arguing about whether or not people can consent, and the person just turns the question straight back onto the I believe it was a senator or something like that who was asking the question, goes, "Do you believe that a 16-year-old can consent to have their genitals removed?" And they just go in a huff and go, "Oh, we're asking the questions here." Go, no, you're not asking the questions. I've asked the question now. Bloody answer it. Because this is televised, and you've just started this. If you think the question's fair, bloody answer it. That's how I'd have answered. Then I'd have been kicked out. He did a good job. He really proved that the trans argument is just ridiculous. That it doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't hold water. That the trans lobby is now one of identity politics and social control. It's nothing to do with actual trans people. There are very, very few actual trans people. This is all about social control now. So that's the first thing that JK Rowling's concerned about. The other thing that she was concerned about is the erasure of women. That women are being erased from things like women's sports, because now a man in a wig can show up and break all the records, which means that no women have any world records anymore, and that's happened. She's worried about women having no space to themselves. They can't have gyms, they can't have saunas, they can't have spas for themselves. Women's prisons aren't safe for them. All of these things. And again, these things are happening. We have had men sent to prisons who have then impregnated the female prisoners. So this is all true. And it's all coming full circle with Hogwarts Legacy. And I find it quite amusing watching all of this go down. Hogwarts Legacy has been a fascinating thing to watch, because by all accounts, it's a really good game. I don't have the game. I'm probably going to get it, but I'm skint at the moment, so I'm going to have to wait for a while, because I can't afford it at the moment. I don't have money to just throw on a brand new game whenever it comes out. I'm going to have to wait until I've got some spare cash, but I probably will pick it up because it looks interesting. It looks like it's pretty decent. All of the reviews prove that it is a good game, and even still, they can't not start every review with 2 paragraphs saying how JK Rowling has said these horrific, horrible comments about trans people. They never quote the comments, though, because they don't know what she said. They've never read her comments. They've never actually looked them up. They know she said horrible things about trans people because someone once told them that she said horrible things about trans people, and therefore she did. It's something I've already covered in my video about JK Rowling, which I'll link below. The thing is, it doesn't matter what any of these games media outlets are doing. The game is the best-selling game of the year, and it's likely going to be the best-selling game for a good long while now. It's breaking records. It's probably going to be a Game of the Year contender. This is going to be a massive, massive game, and they can't change that. So, I think that they're just going to have to swallow a bit of humble pie here. What this is doing is it's revitalising one thing that I didn't expect to see revitalised, and that's Gamergate. Weirdly, it's revitalising it from their side, where people are, because people are making these stupid reviews where they're trying to do hit pieces against this game because they all vehemently hate JK Rowling, even though they'll happily play games by various other developers and from various other franchises without any care. Like, if a new Lovecraftian game came out, they would play it without any issue whatsoever, even though H.P. Lovecraft was known to be a out-and-out racist. Like, completely. Like, it was well known that he was a racist. Now, I've argued in the past that I don't actually think he was racist so much as I think he was xenophobic, which I do think is different, but that's not the point. No one is going to claim that his outlook on other people was a good outlook, and yet they would never bring it up. They wouldn't care. It's almost as if there are certain people who just get targeted, and that person becomes persona non grata. J.K. Rowling is one. Joss Whedon is another. There are a few that just, those names, like, they happen, and it doesn't matter who they are. They just become evil, immediately evil, and that's just the way it is. A great example, I was watching Bill Burr, and he was talking about how cancel culture gets out of hand, and he's talking about Coco Chanel, how she was, she was a feminist icon, and all of this, all of the stuff that she's well remembered for and well respected for, and no one ever points out that she was a Nazi sympathiser. No one seems to want to cancel Coco Chanel. They'll happily, go and, try and cancel other people, though. Like, John Wayne, like, he'll be cancelled. George Clooney, he'll be cancelled. But, Coco Chanel, nah. It's got to be the right outrage. You've got to piss off the right people. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. And that's the hypocrisy of all of this. So I thought that was interesting, and I thought I'd make a video where I discuss it with you guys, see what you all think. I'm in high spirits. I think it's good that we've got a place where I can honestly say the ridiculousness of the trans lobby and the woke politics, the identity politics, is waning and it's failing. Here in the UK, they are in the minority and they're losing. And that's a great thing to see. Good riddance to them. So, yeah. Live on TERF Island. Yes. And I'll see you next time. Also, JK Rowling. Completely agree with everything she said so far when it comes to the trans argument. See you next time. Bye.